are. Yep.
All right. Being the first large city in the U.S. to implement all LED street lighting, what attracted you to the LED technology?
Well, the whole idea that you could change out the light systems and save resources, basically energy, but also save taxpayer money. And the unique thing about it, it had a, obviously lower glare, which was important. One thing you see in Alaska is you want to enjoy the night light, the night sky. And our light systems that we had for decades really just glared out everything. You couldn't see a lot. And obviously they were inefficient. They were high cost and costing taxpayers a lot of money.
Were there specific benefits? I know you mentioned the night sky was incredibly important and the savings, but specific savings you wanted to achieve by retrofitting to LED street lighting, other than what you mentioned?
Well, our goal was originally, we thought, okay, if we can convert these, there's a couple things you said. One is labor costs, because you don't have to change them as often. Two, the direct energy costs, and our goal was 30-40% savings we were hoping to get, which people didn't believe we could even get that. And then when we started to install them, now, literally a year later, they're achieving 50 upwards to 60% savings in hard dollar savings. So that's not, just kind of an avoidance cost. It's real money that taxpayers are no longer paying. The other piece, as I mentioned, that whole idea of the night sky. Now you have direct light down on where it needs to go rather than all over the place, not in your back window of your house, but actually down on the street or on the sidewalk, which the public really enjoys.
So that was your main motivation to implement.
That's right. Save money and make sure at the same time that it worked for the neighborhood. Because one of the pieces that we wanted to make sure was, let's make sure that the customer, the end person, the end user, appreciates the light. Because you can sit there with a lot of tech books and have great technology, then you install it, and what happens? People go, "Oh, that doesn't work because it's too dark or doesn't do the directional light like you want." So we spent the time to really involve the community, to help us figure out the right lighting. And then when we did, the community is very, very excited about it. I mean, I know right outside my house in Anchorage, I drive down that main drag, and there it is, the LED lighting, and I like it in the winter.
Before you took your U.S. Senate seat, were you able to experience or actualize, any of the benefits that Anchorage had seen? I guess you probably see that now more as a resident, that you still have your home there.
That's right.
Than as if. Are there any specific things that?
Yeah, partially. Because we had started, we started the project just as I was moving from the mayor's office. And so we had started some of it already in the fall and just before. And you could, obviously visually see it, but you didn't have a full season, is what I call the calculation of the savings. Now, a year later, you really see it. I know members or friends of mine who are on the city assembly tell me now how much they're saving. And that's why the number, like I said, we said 30%, maybe if we get 40, we'll be very happy. People never believed we'd even exceed, 20%, let alone 10%. So here we are, 50, 60% in savings on the cost of energy is huge. And we spend a lot of money because we have a lot more dark time in the winter, obviously, than most cities. So our lights are illuminated much longer periods of time.
Do you feel you have taken a leadership position with regards to green initiatives? I know you spoke a little bit at the last plenary session.
Right.
On the local level, are you able to establish a connection between the local and the federal levels of government with your experience with this efficient technology?
I think it's starting to happen. I will say that it's hard for the U.S. Senate to really understand. Like the mayors here really talk about it. They're passionate about it. And it's because they're literally changing the bulbs. I mean, they're really doing the work. So they understand the value of it. And translating it up to the Senate is always a difficult challenge. Now, saying that, for the first time, last week, I heard a U.S. Senator on the floor of the Senate literally reading through the U.S. Conference of Mayors book of successes in regards to climate change, energy savings. And so they were actually, one after another, mentioning the city, mentioning the mayor, mentioning what it's saying. And I thought, now they finally have gotten it.
Yes.
And my hope is obviously to spread that. Every meeting that I participate in, when we're talking energy, I use experiences from when I was mayor. Because what is difficult for the U.S. Senate at times is to make that connection. They put this money into something and they wonder, what happened. So if I can help them make that connection, I believe that more resources will come to do more of this kind of energy-efficient technology, which is fairly abundant but not highly utilized as we should be.
Have you noticed a lot of your Senate colleagues really look to you because you were in Anchorage, you implemented this this LED technology, among other things there? Do they really look to you as a source?
I think what they find is that because they've heard it so much, as a former mayor, I always kind of started with that. They recognize, I can give examples. So a lot of the organizations that come to Washington, D.C., we're kind of first on their list to try to what's the next, how do they move through this pathway of the U.S. Senate and on their ideas, especially around lighting technology. And so senators do. When I talk about climate change or energy, because Alaska is kind of this unique state. We not only have renewable, we have non-renewable, and then we're doing all these efficiency projects. So we get to kind of lay it out. So I'm able to help kind of deliver that message that maybe they hadn't had for a long time.
What advice would you give mayors who are interested in implementing LED technology for their municipalities?
Don't be afraid of it. Involve your community. In other words, don't just have the technicians tell you. Because we had a real struggle with going through our kind of bureaucratic process of public works who are used to the old model. I mean, if you look at even the federal regulations, they really don't recognize this new technology, as we had to rewrite our code or our regulation in order to allow this new technology to come in. So what mayors will find, that first meeting they have with their public works people, they'll say, well, we can't do that, and I never heard of that. How are you going to do those many bulbs? And you go through this whole explanation. But just be very persistent about it and show to your community how much you'll save in dollars. Once you do that, the community will be with you solid. But engage them from the beginning. Show them what the savings are. Engage them, help them select the light code, like we did. We actually had them out looking at the light fixtures as they were installed. And they were able to say, oh, we like this because it doesn't have as much glare, or it's more efficient. So engage them and work with your public works people and be very persistent and patient with them. Because once they embrace it at that level, they'll make it happen throughout your whole city.
What type of feedback have you received about the LED street lighting? Of course, before you left again, and then now that you're a resident there in Anchorage, have you been notified of any kind of technical issues or problems or anything like that?
You know, I think you don't hear. I don't hear all those details at this level now. When I was mayor, obviously we did. But one of the things I know people always wanted to know is, do our standards, especially in new subdivisions, are they going to meet this standard? And we tried to set that up before we left. So far, we think it's working. That the new developments are incorporating these. The biggest thing I think people are always worried when they hear about these lights being put in, are they going to be able to see for their kids? That's kind of one of the things you hear. Once they're installed, people then have a very positive attitude. But I think that's still, even though it's not a technical issue, it's more of a community fear of, why are you changing out these big glaring lights that, basically light up the whole city? Why not? And then we try to explain this directional lighting, why it's more beneficial. I think that's it. Some of the newer technology where you can work off of the reflection of the snow and the light, a lot of that hasn't fully developed in our city. I think that's a new potential. We'll have some challenges with it, I think.
And I know this is probably going back to when you were mayor again. I believe it's the Street and Park Maintenance Divisions who are in charge of doing the snow removal. Did they enjoy it? Did they like that better light? Was it easier to do their job? I mean, better see?
Yeah, I think in the Parks and Rec department that has to plow out these and street maintenance, has to do the plowing on the streets. It is actually right there. It's more a defined area rather than these glare lights, as I used to call them. They were, where is the trail? They say these directions really define where you're going, and especially because they're a white light, which is a very crisp color. And I think so far we hear good things, but they're adjusting. It's not like they're so used to it lit up like daylight in the night. And really what they had to get adjusted to is you don't need to light 20 feet off the trail. You need to light the trail. And so that's an adjustment they had to go through because they were so used to it. Literally, it looked like daytime in some of these areas with the high intensity lights that were glowing everywhere. So that was an adjustment. But now they kind of really, you see the trail. It's very defined.
Thank you very much, Senator Begich. Thank you very much.
Thank you.